Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to Gambia's side event on skilling and education to employment transition, unlocking Africa's youthful population. But as we wait for more people to come in, I want us to have a small game. Since we're a small country, we want everyone in this room to know about the Gambia. So everybody is going to go back to your country with one information about the Gambia. So, out of everyone here, who can tell me one thing they know about the Gambia? One thing. Okay, correct. Yes?
Dear friend from Gambia, we know that you like to eat rice and meat.
Okay. Okay, another. Okay, flag has 3 colors, which are? Red, green, and blue. Do you know what those colors mean? Okay.
Et la capitale de Gambie, c'est Banjul. Banjul, capitale.
Yes, Banjul, thank you. Any other? One thing that you know about the Gambia? Very beautiful beach. Yes, very beautiful beach. Yes, another, what do you know about the Gambia? Smiling coast of Africa. We're always smiling, right? Okay. Tell me, any other thing about the Gambia? We know we're in West Africa. We have beautiful beaches. Someone said our flag is red, white, blue, white, green. Any other? Something interesting about the Gambia? It wasn't the same country. There's still Gambia and Senegal. Yes, but you know, we're brothers and sisters. Same people.
Ebe.
Do you know what Ebe is? You want to know what Ebe is? Okay.
I think Gambia surrounds a river. I don't know the name of the river, but there is a river flowing in the country.
The River Gambia or the Atlantic Ocean? The River Gambia. The River Gambia. Yes.
The champions of jollof rice competition.
Yes, we are the champions. Did you know that? We won the jollof rice competition in Ghana. Yeah? Good. For those at the back, can you please come closer so we can start? Come closer. Yes, you. So I think we can start. So the reason why Youth Connect is very important to the Gambia is, as you all know, we have a youthful population of about 65%. Honorable, am I right? Yes? And we have what's the percentage as per the last census? 60, yeah? Okay. Below 35, yes. 18 to 35. 74. 60. 18 to 35. Okay. 15 to 35, okay. It's 60%. Okay, so you know we have a youthful population. We have a youth minister. Earlier I was in a session and my friend from Cameroon was introducing her minister, saying he was vibrant, he's accessible, but I think we have the most accessible minister. Gambians, do we agree? Yeah. Good. Because anywhere I go international, they talk about how, friendly our minister is, how accessible he is, and how he's always open to have discussions with young people around the continent. So let's give him a round of applause. So in this event, let me give you some of the objectives for this side event. Some of the objectives are to explore the current gaps in education systems that limit youth employability in Africa, showcase successful models of skilling initiatives that bridge education and employment, identify policy frameworks, recommendations, and collaborative strategies that can promote skilling, capital accumulation, entrepreneurship, and job creation for youth, foster partnerships between governments, the private sector, and educational institutions to address unemployment and underemployment amongst Africa's youth, provide a platform for young people to share their experiences and solutions regarding the challenges they face in transitioning from education to employment. So these are the objectives of this side event. I'll give you a brief rundown of the agenda. We will have the welcome remarks by the Honorable Minister, Honorable Bakary Baji from the Gambia. We will then have a panel discussion aligning education systems with labor market needs, a dialogue that will focus on current gaps in African education systems and the evolving demands of the labor market. In the panel, we will have Gambia's Mr. Usman Toure, a youth leader and entrepreneur who is now kind of snatched by Rwanda. We will have the Director of Youth and Sports of Malawi, the National Director of Youth Employment and Self-Employment of Guinea Conakry, and then the Labor and Expert Center for Employment Initiatives, ecosystem partner from the MasterCard. This panel will be moderated by the Youth Connect focal point in the Gambia, Mr. Basiru J. After that, we would have a short fireside chat, dialogue, questions and answers. We would have the closing remarks by our able partner, UNDP. So this is just the agenda. I would now call on the moderator of the panel. Or no, maybe before that, let me call on the Honorable Minister to give the welcome remarks. Welcome, Honorable. I hope that works. Yeah. We have translation devices. If you need a translation device, please go to the booth at the back. It's not working?
Okay, so this is not working, we'll put it aside. All right, so let me use this one because that's the one that's working. And good afternoon to all of you that are present here today. The Master of Ceremony, Madam Melissa Kamara, General Manager of NEDI. And we have our distinguished guests that are present from the Gambia and from the other countries that are invited to serve as panelists and to speak to this very important topic. We have our directors from Guinea and from other countries. Of course, our Deputy Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Trade is also here. And to the young people that are from Gambia and from the other countries, welcome to this side event, which is being hosted by the Gambia Youth Connect with collaboration with the UNDP Gambia office, that us as a ministry, as a government, is proud to be associated with and to support the whole process. Now, as we all know, we are looking at a very important topic, which is the transformation of our education, from education to skilling, and employment. And it is important that us, as policymakers, but others who are here, as young people, meet to discuss these issues for many reasons. One, because there is a reality that we have a mismatch in terms of the current education system in Africa, because majority of our systems create a theoretical background to issues, but rarely do we have the practical knowledge that helps us and prepare us for that job market that we all yearn for. So the reality is the continent of Africa, the Gambia being part of, must start looking at systems and policies that create a pathway where young people can have the right type of education that will correspond to the realities of the job market out there, so that when young people are employed, are educated, they can be ready to get into the job market. So this event, which is a side event for this edition of the Youth Connect, will be looking at those realities. What can we do as governments? What can we do as development partners to work together to create an education system that is fit for purpose? But what policies and programs can we put in place so that as government, we can be able to create opportunities for young people to be able to get the right jobs? And these are things back home in the Gambia that we all discuss occasionally. That today you go to the University of the Gambia, for instance, and we are learning political science, or we are studying law, or development studies, or other fields in the accountancy system. But once these young people graduate, they're finding it difficult to get a job. And I'm sure that the realities of the Gambia is also the realities in other countries, in Rwanda, in Kenya, or in Nigeria, Ghana, and Benin, or Rwanda. It's all similar situations. So we all need to look at these issues and be able to venture more into the TVEC education, the technical and vocational education and training, so that we get our young people equipped with the skills that they need to be able to get that employment. Or even if they cannot get employment, the most important is to be able to create jobs for themselves. We are told statistically that in Africa we have 1.5 billion people that live in the continent, and 60% of that number is young people who are below the age of 35. Now, these are realities. It is a strength on one part because we can rely on the workforce, the human resources that we have. But it is also a ticking bomb in the sense that if we don't work to address the unemployment of these huge number of young people, then we'll be preparing for a bleak future for ourselves and for our countries, as well as for our continent. So as we gather here today to discuss these issues, I hope the panel, that are people that are resourced and have the knowledge, will be able to help all of us to start thinking. We might not be able to get the answers today. We probably might not even get the solutions. But it is a way to trigger our thinking, and as we go back to our countries, to be able to start looking at what we need to do practically to change the realities of our education system and make it more progressive for the continent's young people and in general for the betterment of our people. So I want to end here by thanking all of you that have availed your time to come and join us, and to say welcome to this side event and wish all of us a successful deliberations. Most of it will come from our panelists, and that's where the knowledge is. Enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister talked about one major issue that is not unique to the Gambia, that is mismatch between education and job market. I think this has been the discussion since the first day of us being here, since during the pre-summit technical committee meeting. This has been the discussions. And as he's rightfully said, it's not unique to the Gambia, so it is a discussion that is supposed to be happening at this point, and policymakers should do whatever is possible to make sure that they put the right policies in place to support young people as they strive to be better people. So on that note, maybe one more time, one more round of applause for Honorable Minister. On that note, I now call on our able panel members to join us on the stage. Basiru? Okay, I will get Basiru moderating the panel to introduce his panel members. Basiru?
Yes. Greetings to everyone. Imagine where every young African is not a passive observer of progress, but an active driver of change. A continent where potential is not a mere concept, but a lived reality. My name is Basiru J. I'm from the Gambia. I am the Youth Connect Gambia focal point. Without going further, I would love to introduce and welcome my panelists. Can I have Mr. Usman Toure, who is a youth leader, a Pan-African, and an entrepreneur to the panel. Can I also have Ms. Judith, who is the Director of Youth and Sport, Malawi. You're welcome, Ma. Est-ce que je pourrais avoir Madame Aminata Kouyaté, the National Director of Youth and Employment and Self-Employment, Guinea-Conakry? And can I have Rashmi Mehra, who's from the Chief Skills Rwanda? Yes, thank you so much, and welcome. Welcome everyone to the Gambia's panel on skilling and education to employment transition for Africa's youth. Across Africa, the challenges of empowering our youth with the skills and opportunities they need not to only enter but thrive in the workforce is more pressing than ever. Education alone is not enough if it doesn't lead to meaningful employment. Today, we will explore how to bridge this gap by aligning our educational outcomes with the market demands. We will discuss practical strategies, successful models, and ways to foster robust collaboration between educators, policymakers, and also businesses. Our goal is to uncover solutions that ensure young people are not just employable, but have the skills, opportunities, and support to realize their potentials. I'm looking forward to a dynamic conversation with our esteemed panelists as they share their insight, real-world examples, and actionable ideas for creating lasting change. Let's begin now. Thank you very much. So I will start with Mr. Usman Toure, who is a young leader and a Pan-African. Mr. Usman Toure, can you briefly describe your perspective on the current situation or the current state of education to employment transition for Africa's youth?
Thank you very much, Basiru. It's also a pleasure, and I'm really delighted to be here with you having this conversation today. Basically, we have a challenge, and this is a reality in every African country, as to how the education system have been tailored from independence to date, and how do we better enhance or provide an education that is not only fit for purpose, but education that supports a global reality. It is a reality that in the next 5-6 years, almost 40% of jobs will be automated and done by robots. What this means is either we learn to be more innovative in living with that reality, or that the burden of unemployment and many other burdens that hits young people will continue to be something that persists forever. Now, it must also be noted that in most universities today, we have not graduated from that traditional ways of just teaching young people to master on fields just on a theoretical point. And I think universities generally should be solution centers. Not only that, but shape directives as to what the public-private ought to look like. Again, our current job market.
2030, 230 million jobs will require digital skills. So in terms of out of that number, where the women are, where is the gender gap? So I will go straight to Madam Rashmi, who is a Chief Skills, who is from Chief Skills Rwanda. As a labor expert and an expert in skills, how can educational institutions better align their programs with market needs? And also, are there any examples, existing example with this alignment that which has been successful?
Thank you, Basiru. Thank you for the question. But before I start, good afternoon to the Honorable Minister, my panels, esteemed panel members, and the people gathered here. And the question that Basiru has asked is, it's a very complex question, and I will try to be crisp and brief, and plus also try to give some specific inputs there. So in terms of alignment of educational programs with, or what we actually call market-led initiatives, that is critical because if you see, this is what the esteemed minister also stated, and my panel members also stated, that there is a distinct gap in Africa between what the educational institutions teach and what the labor market demands. Plus also that we talked about the demographic dividend. Africa has a vibrant, youthful, dynamic population, but most of them, if you see, are not really employable, or at least not employable on day one. So that it makes it critical that the educational programs are aligned to the needs of the labor market. But if we ask the question of who exactly knows the needs of the labor market, it is the employers and the private sector. It's not a difficult question. And the answer lies in the question itself, if you see. So what is the logical approach to do this is that there has to be a bridge. So technical vocational education or any education has to be a two-way street. There has to be a bridge between academia and the private sector because they know what they need. This in terms of skills, knowledge, attitude, all of that. And again, I could kind of go on talking about it, but to be very specific, I would like to take one example of what the Chief Skills Office is doing in Rwanda. What we are doing is we have taken the country, Rwanda has taken a systems level approach, and we are doing this with the help of, we are supported by MasterCard Foundation. So what we're doing is we are implementing the strategy of national skill development and employment promotion strategy, within which there are specific components on market-led education, out of which I would like to talk about one or two. And the first is setting up sectoral bodies. Now, different countries call them either sector skill councils or sectoral bodies. You have different names, but very similar functions. So these are sectoral bodies which actually form a bridge between academia and the private sector. Their job is to do sector level development, and they are led by the private sector. So they identify the skilling needs of the sector. They help to upskill and the existing workforce, get trainings for the new workforce, basis the skills needs analysis or skill gap analysis of the particular sector, and help the sector, the workforce, to move from low skilled jobs to higher skilled job up the value chain. And that is where they impact, in economic terms, the economic development of this, not only the sector, but the country as well. And it's a very successful initiative across many countries. There are many examples. So in Rwanda, we have operationalized 6 sector scale councils with support from the government and some of the development partners, and they've started to deliver results. This is just one example. The other is labor market analysis. So if you talk about market-led initiatives, we have to have market intelligence, and that is we do through various methodologies. Something that, and I'm mostly taking examples from Rwanda. I've been staying here for 3 years now. I'm almost a resident of the country, accepting the language is difficult. So what we've also done is we have developed something called an approach of state of skills report. So almost every year or every 1.5, 2 years we do a market assessment across sectors, identify what are the critical skill gaps, critical skill requirements, which is then fed through a labor market system. There's an LMIS in place, a digital platform, which is fed into the academic programs, so that the academic programs education can be aligned to the specific needs of the labor market in terms of what kind of skills are required, under supply, over supply of skills. Another initiative that Rwanda has taken is setting up a centralized graduate tracking system, where we have the institutions can use it to undertake traces surveys. Now, traces surveys help in assessing the employment outcomes of graduates and assess the relevance of the training programs or their education programs, and that this data feeds back into the academic programs to help them align to the specific needs of the labor market. How much time do I have?
Thank you so much. These are very powerful models which are used at the Chief Skills Rwanda. And I will move to Madame Kouyaté. Vous pouvez parler en français. Comment la politique gouvernementale peut être favoriser des transitions plus harmonieuses entre l'éducation et l'emploi?
Merci beaucoup, Bashiro. Good evening, everyone. I'm from a French-speaking country, so please take your casque to understand what I'm going to say. Oui, effectivement, je pense que je rejoins les différents panélistes, à savoir que les problématiques sont les mêmes. Pour ceux que la Guinée ne fait pas exception, nous avons aussi une population jeune et vraiment, il y a un gap entre donc un gap entre réellement la formation que les jeunes reçoivent et le besoin du marché. Et en ce moment, il y a vraiment une dynamique impulsée par le président de la République en personne à travers un projet visionnaire que nous appelons Simandou 2040, qui a donc pour objectif de transformer la Guinée en profondeur. Et concrètement, ça va consister en quoi? C'est de voir un peu quels sont les secteurs porteurs. Et quand vous prenez le projet Simandou 2040, le premier axe, c'est l'agriculture. Et le deuxième, c'est l'éducation. Et je pense que ce n'est pas un hasard pour un pays comme la Guinée. À savoir que la Guinée est déjà connue pour être un scandale, comme on dit, minier, le château d'eau de l'Afrique. Et aujourd'hui, la vision du président de la République à travers le projet Simandou 2040, c'est de faire vraiment de la Guinée aussi le grenier de l'Afrique. Quand je prends juste le secteur de l'agriculture, il faut savoir que selon les récentes statistiques de la Banque mondiale, 59% de la main-d'œuvre de la population peut être absorbée par ce secteur. Et quand on sait qu'en Guinée, 55% de la main-d'œuvre, donc vous voyez que rien que l'agriculture peut absorber, peut créer le plein emploi en Guinée. Donc ce n'est pas vraiment toujours une question de gap, c'est de savoir quels sont les secteurs porteurs, comment les identifier et comment les rendre attractifs pour les jeunes. Et c'est aujourd'hui un peu ce que nous sommes en train de faire, la dynamique vers laquelle nous partons, faire en sorte que la formation corresponde réellement aux besoins du marché. Aujourd'hui, on a besoin de développer le secteur agricole qui peut être non seulement porteur de richesse, porteur, comme on dit, de développement pour la Guinée, mais aussi permettre aux jeunes Guinéens de s'autonomiser et comme on dit, de prendre leur destin en main. Mais pour cela, au jour d'aujourd'hui, la façon dont ce secteur-là est structuré, ça ne peut pas le faire parce que les outils sont archaïques, ils n'ont pas suffisamment de formation, il n'y a pas l'accès à la terre, etc. Donc, c'est vraiment rendre ce secteur-là, comme on dit, sexy pour les jeunes, à travers des outils modernes, à travers aussi de la formation, parce qu'aujourd'hui, la nouvelle technologie est aussi au niveau de l'agriculture. Comment faire en sorte que les jeunes puissent avoir accès à toutes ces connaissances et à toutes ces compétences. Donc, c'est un peu le défi que nous avons, que nous sommes en train de relever avec le gouvernement pour que les jeunes sachent déjà quels sont les secteurs qui sont porteurs, où est-ce qu'il y a des opportunités pour avoir de l'emploi. Et maintenant, en tant que gouvernement, nous mettons les moyens et les attirons vers ceci. Et pour rejoindre ce que la dame disait tout à l'heure, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, dans la plupart de ces pays, et la Guinée ne fait pas exception, vraiment, on a besoin de techniciens compétents. Nous, à travers ce projet, il faut des techniciens dans le domaine minier, dans le domaine agricole, dans tous les domaines. Donc, je pense que la politique gouvernementale, c'est aussi d'inciter, pas d'obliger, mais d'inciter les jeunes à aller vraiment vers ces secteurs qui sont porteurs, à travers, comme on dit, des curricula qui puissent être attractifs, à travers des moyens et même à travers des échanges d'expériences pour qu'ils se rendent compte que s'il va vers l'agriculture, il ne va pas le faire comme son grand-père, il va le faire de façon moderne et même peut-être juste avec son smartphone. Donc voilà un peu ce que je voulais partager sur l'expérience.
Merci, Madame Kouyaté. L'Afrique a besoin des techniciens compétents. Merci pour cette délibération. I am going to move to the Director of Youth and Sport Malawi. You have heard all the panelists mention about the requirement of young Africans to be equipped with skills that are relevant with the job market. Can you highlight any specific programs or initiatives that have successfully equipped youth with market-relevant skills in Malawi?
Thank you so much, moderator. Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to join this panel and share Malawi's experience in areas of skills development. Yes, in Malawi we have several initiatives that are providing skills to young people. I'll give an example of Jobs for Youth program that was being financed by Africa Development Bank. I did mention in our country session what that program was all about. So it addressed the bottlenecks to youth acquiring skills, youth acquiring financial support, and even mentorship. So through Jobs for Youth, we worked with private institutions, we worked with public institutions, some of them universities, some of them just business incubators to provide the skills. It was focusing on 4 economic sectors, which is agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and ICT. So working with private and public institutions, these institutions were able to recruit young people and provide the necessary skills that they require, and then went further to even provide the BDS, the business advisory services that they needed. Some were given grants to, further utilize their skills. Some were just hand-holding in terms of technical support that they needed, linking them to bigger markets for their businesses. Some just, giving them ideas on how to prototype their businesses, how to make sure that their prototypes are well protected. That's one aspect to it. Again, in the Malawi session, we also showcased 2 ongoing programs that are being financed by UNDP. There's Danchito, which means job. It's a Chichewa name, a local name, which means job. And then we have the Growth Accelerator. So all these are working with young people to support them with skilling, to support them with financing, and to support them with business advisory services. We have some young people that we have come with us to use this summit that are showcasing the real impact that those programs have on them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Director, for those wonderful. I will go back to Mr. Usman Toure. We have known what are the current market trends. You have made mention in your earlier deliberation that most of the education system, there is a mismatch between what they are teaching and also what is currently happening at the labor market, I will say. What are the most critical skills that educational systems should prioritize to prepare students for the modern workforce? Because jobs keeps changing. Skills and upskilling, reskilling is very crucial. So currently, what are the most critical skills that education systems will adopt? Thank you.
Thank you once again for that brilliant question. About 2 months ago, I was in a similar gathering, having a discussion with young people in Yaoundé. And then there was this short presentation of a young lady that is enrolled in the ICT university. And I've developed a device, just like a technology that scanned and detect early stage of cancer, like breast cancer. But then, having looked at her at that stage with that presentation at the time, she has to navigate to even get a lab that will take charge of the processes in order to make it a scientific, proof or, accepted device. But that's not only the challenge. The next challenge was what would be a funding for that initiative look like to scale that into something else. Now, often we have a big of a challenge on whether the skills are there. Yes, we have the skill gap, but more than the skill gap is the mindset and investment. We have many brilliant young Africans. If you're a frequent traveler, almost every flight across the continent or outside of the continent, we see young people leaving. And these people are not just traveling, they're running away. And they're not running away because they don't have skills. They're doing it because the skills they have do not pay them. So the big problem in the continent is investing in the skills, but providing a platform through which these young people can make their potentials count, their potentials and possibilities. Now, some of the things that are currently required, and every part of the world is improving in this, is how do you provide a safe environment whereby we do not just look at these young people as a threat, but we look at the potentials and possibilities that comes with the skills that they acquire. For instance, somebody is going to school somewhere in the province of the Gambia or in Malawi, in Guinea, and the list goes on. But just because they have a device and access in internet, they're able to do something that their school cannot give them. So the world is way ahead of the educational institution and the preparation that they're doing with young people in most African countries. So that's a number one reality. And again, it comes to a point where when we go into these schools, we see problem when we walk into these spaces. We see problems in the schools. We try to get solutions around them. But one of the most pertinent issue is that patriotic, company that an individual need for a country, for a continent, is sometimes not captured in the education system. For instance, we see a lot of young people who develop and acquire skills, but ultimately is, how do I raise enough money to transition into Europe, US, and the list goes on. But that sense of urgency in seeing oneself as a solution, as somebody that can put an end to some of these challenges, we do not have or we do not acquire in the school from the school system. So yes, skills like technology and everything we need it in our modern day and time. Without tech, almost 90% of jobs right now all over the world requires a degree of technology. And not only that, but leadership, for instance. There is a challenge, and this is a reflection I made about in 2020, that in 2021, somewhere in Nigeria, that a room full as this, if we ask the young people, who do you look at or who do you look up to? They might not cite their community leader. They might not choose a politician in their country. They might not choose a business person in their country. So there is a problem. So there has to be that leadership. There has to be a general knowledge of what we are as young people and how much of a responsibility we owe ourselves and for the future in order to be able to be contributors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All depends on the leadership. And this reminds me of keep thinking. I will come to Madam Rashmi. When I think about the status of women in the current modern world of scaling, from your experience, can you just highlight in chief skills, how do they, in terms of scaling and then reskilling, what is the state of women across Africa, I will say, or like in Rwanda? Because normally we have seen the gender gap in terms of so many things that are happening, especially the digital divide, which is currently happening in the world. From your own experience, what is the state of women in terms of scaling Africa?
Thank you, Basiru. I mean, that's a question that we often ask ourselves, and being a woman, I ask that question more myself. So my experiences, so I have multiple experiences across, I come from Asia, now in Africa. So if I compare, if you just ask for my personal opinion, if I compare, Africa's probably better off than Asia, at least some countries in Asia. Having said that, it doesn't mean that we are exactly where we are. So I think recently, under the Chief Skills Office, we had undertaken a gender study. And it was very interesting to note what came out of it. One is so while we talk a lot about gender, but is it embedded within each of the programs? At a systems level, the answer was no. And it was backed by data. So if you look at, so there's a social conditioning that happens. So there are specific trades, if you see, which are very male-oriented trades. And this is, thank you. So there are specific traits which are very male-oriented. And that is the way we think. And I think I was building up, some point in time, I was building up a curriculum for the electrician trade and plumbing and electrician trades. We were supporting that. And when I asked these people about the low representation of women in these trades, the answer was it was a very disconcerting answer. They said, people hesitate to call a woman plumber or a woman electrician to their homes. I don't know how true it is for most people, but it just kind of, that conversation stuck with me. So when we talk about gender, it's a lot about social conditionings, the social aspects of what is driven by genders, There are some specific traits. But however, what we're trying to also do is for each of the trades that we work on, or like when we are setting up the councils, the sector skill councils that I talked of earlier, we have made some very specific, structured strategies to have X number of women representations. Like in the manufacturing sector, there are very few women there. Mining, very few. Tourism, we have better representation. And so what we're trying to do is try to bridge the gap. And similarly, if you look at the data, you look at the urban versus rural divide. The divide is more prominent when you get into the rural areas. Urban, you have better statistics. I think it's also connected to education, definitely. So the more educated a population is, it's more evolved in terms of social reconditionings and gender biases. So this is essentially what I'll say, Basur, at this point in time.
Thank you so much. The progress of women requires everybody's responsibility, and it has to be intentional to support women, skilling women, and promote more of women leadership. So, Madame Kouyaté, vous avez une noble initiative en Guinée qui soutient les femmes. Pouvez-nous en souligner les impacts et les défis?
Oui, merci Bassirou. Effectivement, quand on en vient maintenant au genre, il y a effectivement beaucoup de défis concernant les femmes. En ce qui nous concerne, nous avons carrément fait le choix, comme on dit, stratégique de favoriser les femmes par rapport à certains projets. Et justement, la mise en place du projet Youth Connect en Guinée, la première action a été à travers un projet que nous avons appelé Youth Connect for Women, qui avait pour objectif d'identifier des femmes mentors dans la zone rurale, qui étaient souvent dans l'agriculture, qui avaient déjà une expérience dans le domaine et qui avaient réussi, donc qui avaient déjà franchi plusieurs barrières, et voir avec eux comment elles pouvaient mentorer d'autres jeunes femmes qui voulaient aller dans le même domaine. Et avec très peu de moyens, beaucoup de formations, de coaching, on a eu vraiment des résultats extraordinaires. Disons juste que quand on met un peu de moyens en place et un peu de formation, les femmes peuvent faire aussi bien, sinon mieux que les hommes. Et justement, aujourd'hui, nous voulons aller encore à l'échelle à travers ce projet, et c'est un peu les perspectives du projet en Guinée, c'est que ces femmes mentors qui ont déjà fait preuve de, comme on dit, d'endurance et qui ont relevé beaucoup de défis, comment aujourd'hui les qualifier, les capacités pour qu'elles aient accès au libre marché à travers la ZLECAF et autres, pour que d'autres femmes mentors qu'elles ont mentorées viennent à leur place, ainsi de suite, pour qu'on ait vraiment une chaîne qui ne va pas s'interrompre. Et aussi, pour revenir au métier spécifique aux femmes, on a aussi eu une expérience extraordinaire à travers un autre projet qu'on appelait Integra, qui était surtout dans ce qu'on appelle les chantiers écoles. Ça, c'était vraiment dans les métiers du BTP. À travers un programme d'insertion de 9 mois, on prenait des jeunes, des fois, qui ne savaient ni lire ni écrire, mais au bout de 9 mois, ils sortaient avec un métier. Et souvent, les jeunes femmes venaient, mais elles étaient nourrices. Surtout, c'était aussi dans un axe qui était vers donc, une région de la Guinée, où il y avait donc en moyenne Guinée. Elles venaient, elles étaient intéressées. C'était pourtant des travaux de BTP. Et on s'est dit, mais on va pas les prendre parce qu'elles ont des enfants. Ça veut dire que c'est déjà encore une injustice vis-à-vis d'elles. Et on a mis en place ce qu'on appelait les crèches mobiles. À travers ce projet, on a expérimenté ce projet. On a pris encore d'autres jeunes femmes qu'on a formées qui s'occupaient des bébés. Et du coup, il y a des régions où on a eu plus de 60% de femmes dans les métiers du BTP. Maçonnerie, vitrerie, plomberie, elles sont venues et elles ont fait tout aussi bien. Parce qu'on a juste réussi à trouver cette petite solution où elles pouvaient laisser leur enfant aller travailler et venir voir le bébé pendant la pause, etc. Donc, ça veut dire que quand on met les outils, les conditions et les moyens, on peut vraiment réduire ces barrières pour les femmes. Merci.
Merci, madame. J'étais tellement intéressé sur ce projet, mais c'était tellement noble. I'll come to Director of Youth, Malawi. We have known that across Africa, so many countries don't prioritize vocational and technical training compared to other parts of the world. They are frequently left behind. People are always neglected, those in the TVET areas. So from your experience, what is the role of government in empowering vocational and technical institutions, in bridging the gap and the skills mismatch.
Thank you so much for that question. You're right that most African countries do not prioritize vocational skills institutions. It's just unfortunate that we don't do that, because if you look at our education systems across the three levels, primary, secondary, and tertiary, we see that they are struggling. If you look at enrollments at primary school, and if you look at transition from that primary school to secondary, you find that mostly it's half that transition from primary to secondary, and probably just a third transition from secondary to tertiary. It means we have a lot of young people that are dropping out on the way. So the role of governments in this space now is to make sure that we provide alternative learning pathways. And technical and vocational skills is one of that alternative learning pathways. So it will be important for governments to ensure that we have these institutions across the country so that they're easily accessible by young people. I'll give an example. In Malawi, we have a program where we're establishing community colleges, technical community colleges in each and every district. From there, we are going to trickle down to each and every constituency, just to make sure that young people have access to such training institutions. But again, we are also promoting informal training using the local artisans that we have in the communities. So what government did is to make sure that we build the capacity of these local artisans to ensure that they are providing relevant skills, they are providing quality skills that are matching with the labor market. So that's the role of government. Again, the role of government is to ensure that the sector is well regulated, not leaving it too open, but making sure that they're using the standards that are required, they're using the curriculum that are required, and they're also certified. Through the informal training, we are using CBET, which is competency-based, as compared to a young person just getting theory in class, but they are assessed based on their competence on a particular skill that they're being trained in. So I believe really the role of governments is to make sure that we have the facilities, we have the trainers available, we have the curriculum available, we have the policies that are really coordinating everything else in that sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's now time to widen up the panel. We will have a fire chat of 25 minutes. So if you have any question, the panelists are here. You can raise your hand and direct your question to any of the panelists. Yes, we are going to have a fire chat. You can raise your hand and then, yes. You can kindly mention your name and which country are you from and what sector.
Bonsoir à tous et à toutes. Monsieur Doudou Sankaré, inspecteur technique au ministère de la Jeunesse, des Sports et de la Culture du Sénégal. Alors, je voudrais donc saluer tous les panélistes, saluer nos parents gambiens, mais surtout, moi, j'ai une question très cruciale posée à M. Ousmane Touré. Ce qu'on constate la plupart du temps, c'est que en fait, quoi qu'on puisse dire, la plupart des gouvernements africains font beaucoup d'efforts dans cette question de jeunesse. Parce que nous-mêmes qui travaillons au niveau de ces ministères-là, tous les cadres qui sont là, ils savent on déploie beaucoup d'efforts dans ces questions de jeunesse. On est conscient également de l'engagement de la jeunesse africaine. Vous l'avez dit tantôt, vous rencontrez des jeunes partout, des jeunes engagés, motivés, qui sont dynamiques, qui veulent réussir. Alors, mais paradoxalement, malgré les efforts des gouvernements africains, malgré l'engagement de la jeunesse africaine, on constate jusqu'à présent qu'il y a problème. Moi, j'ai l'habitude de dire que la jeunesse africaine n'est pas un problème, c'est une solution au problème de développement de l'Afrique. Mais le problème est là, il reste entier. Alors, est-ce que nous, Africains, la manière dont nous procédons par rapport à un modèle économique que nous ne maîtrisons pas, est-ce que ce n'est pas ce modèle qui bloque en réalité les gouvernements africains pour essayer d'abord de régler cette question économique? Parce que la question de la jeunesse, le plus souvent on parle de skills, on parle de jobs, on parle de toutes ces choses-là. C'est une question de modèle économique qu'il faut revoir, je pense. Ce n'est pas vous les jeunes. En tout cas, moi, à mon niveau, parce que bon, évidemment, les gouvernements sont là, on fait des efforts, on fait des réajustements, on réajuste des politiques publiques, mais toujours les problèmes sont là. Est-ce que ce modèle économique-là, est-ce qu'il ne faut pas le revoir? Faire en sorte que l'Afrique ait son propre modèle économique. Parce que ce modèle que nous avons n'est pas un modèle africain. C'est un modèle qu'on nous a imposé, que nous ne maîtrisons pas malheureusement, et qui fait qu'on ne peut pas régler cette question de développement en Afrique, cette question de développement économique. Parce que tant qu'on ne réglera pas cette question de développement économique, toutes ces questions de chômage-là, cette question de sous-développement-là, nous risquons toujours donc vraiment de continuer à vivre cela. Pour moi, je ne sais pas, vous les jeunes, je vous pose cette question, vous les jeunes, est-ce que vous avez des propositions à faire au gouvernement africain s'il ne faut pas revoir ce modèle, ou bien vous avez un modèle à proposer au gouvernement africain? Je vous remercie.
All right, thank you so much. Ousmane, you can take note. Can we have one from the back? There.
Good afternoon. I'm Eto'Ahene, and I'm representing Ghana. My question is, a lot of times we use statistics, like the statistic where you said 40% of jobs are going to be automated in whatever amount of time. A lot of times those statistics don't apply to Africa. So how do we make sure that we're using the appropriate statistics when we're talking about the labor market, when we're talking about aligning academia with the job market, with what's required? How do we make sure we use our own statistics?
I'm sorry, to whom are you directing the question to?
Yeah. Ousmane is fine, yes.
Ousmane, okay.
Another question? Another one? Or?
Yes, we can have one from that side.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup à tous les panélistes. Je suis Mahamoud, secrétaire permanent de Youth Connect Burkina. Moi, ce n'est pas une question, mais c'est plutôt un commentaire et une contribution par rapport donc, à tous ces développements qui sont faits tout à l'heure. En fait, nous sommes dans un paradoxe. Le paradoxe, c'est que nous sommes des pays qui ont un besoin de construction dans plusieurs domaines. Et en même temps, nous avons un problème de main-d'œuvre. Voilà le paradoxe. Qu'est-ce qui se passe en réalité? Je pense que c'est une interpellation donc, qui s'adresse à chacun de nous. Que vous soyez gouvernement, vous soyez jeune ou que vous soyez même parent, parce que c'est aussi là la question aujourd'hui de la formation professionnelle et de l'apprentissage. Quelle est la représentation que les parents eux-mêmes ont justement donc de la formation professionnelle? Lorsque vous envoyez votre enfant à l'école, à partir de l'école primaire, le secondaire, vers l'université, qu'est-ce que nous souhaitons que nos enfants deviennent? Est-ce que nous voulons que nos enfants soient des ouvriers qualifiés ou bien est-ce que nous voulons des enfants titulaires de licence, master, doctorat, etc., etc. Donc je pense que c'est une question en fait qui n'incombe pas seulement au gouvernement, même si leurs responsabilités restent donc engagées. Et il me semble que nous avons intérêt à être pragmatiques. Et ce pragmatisme, pour moi, doit nous amener à nous orienter vers les métiers pratiques, l'apprentissage. Regardons, j'ai bien aimé donc j'allais dire la remarque qui a été faite par rapport à la non-prise en compte du milieu rural. Aujourd'hui, les jeunes qui vivent en milieu rural, qu'est-ce qu'ils ont besoin pour pouvoir bien vivre de l'élevage, pour pouvoir bien vivre de leur agriculture? Il y a donc des apprentissages qui peuvent leur permettre effectivement donc de pouvoir être plus compétitifs dans leur production, mais aussi donc la dimension transformation donc des produits locaux. Et je pense que c'est à cela que nous, gouvernements, donc, nous devrons davantage regarder les choses. Et comme elle a dit donc tout à l'heure, que nous rapprochons dans les statistiques par rapport à nos propres réalités. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Jean. We will come back to the round of questions, so we can allow Usman. The first question was, regardless of whatsoever the government is doing, the models which are currently existing, there is still problem. So what are the economic models in which you can propose?
Thank you so much. And my brother from Senegal, thank you for that brilliant question. It's as if you've read my bio somewhere for posting that question. So I have been a critic of our economic policies and paradigms in Africa. And the reasons why I happens to be on this side of the coin is, you see, most of us at independent Africa, all over the continent, it was just a switch, in the operation that, okay, go and chant your political independence, have your own flags, make your declaration, have your heads of states, but there exists a global financial system that established without any consultation of Africa or Africans. And you have to subscribe to it. First, on a political standpoint, we are made to believe that our systems have to be democratic in nature. I have no problem. But in order for us to move, we have to rely on existing patterns that are set and operated by a world without us. And that means Africa has to rely on systems of governance, economic models that were already developed without Africa's input. And we went through a whole transition of a cold world as to where we have to be, either on the side of the liberal, democratic approach, or relying on the other side of Marxism, more communist in nature. A very phenomenal African at the time championed a very good cause, and my sister from Ghana would perhaps relate, and that's the scientific approach of Nkrumah on socialism. An African approach that's embedded in the African context, that there is an Ubuntu spirit of, I am because we are. And not only that, an education system that looks into the resources, the context and the potentials within the African continent and add values to it. But that has not been the approach. And for instance, like Senegal, Sub-Saharan Africa in general, we were beneficiary, as they put it, to the structural adjustment plan. This not only capitalized or, paralyzed our development approaches at the time, but even affect the future, the way in which we do business today. And my alternative would be that, yes, we are a continent that has all the resources. When we talk about youthfulness, we said it is potentials. But potentials for who? And potentials for what? I am a strong believer in Pan-Africanism. And often we make that it is just a historical slogan. Or no, it's just some frustrated individuals who have read a lot of books and extending a conversation around that. No, it is economical as much as it was philosophical and historic. And Walter Rodney have given us a pathway on how these decisions can be taken. It starts with Africa having a global or a continental approach towards its resources, tailoring its education system that adds values to it. The average young man in many African countries steps on minerals to go to school for years and graduate without being taught anything to do with those minerals they step on every day, but are graded on how much credit they have on passing literary work on papers.
Thank you so much. They are graded on how much credit they have. I think you have also touched the second question, which was talking about having our own system and statistics. You have also touched that part, so we can go to the next round of questions.
I asked her if she is satisfied.
Is your question answered?
I did mention that. No,
all
it
right.
wasn't. Yes.
Thank you.
So on that question, thank you so much. When it comes to the statistics, it would be also important to state this. I am in the private sector. We operate a business in which about 2 years ago, we had around 150 individuals that would come to our factory for work on a daily basis. Earlier last year, we bought an automated machine from China. We had to cut off more than 40 individuals who we no longer required their work because they were in the packaging line, and now we have a single machine that can do that work. So yes, there is a problem. And these statistics, yes, affect all of us, because even in as much as we are in the remotest areas of Senegal or the Gambia, whenever we have the opportunity to get a machine for somebody in the private sector, that's what you opt for efficiency and efficacy. Now, the other thing becomes a problem where how much of a data is accessible to us and how much of a data is presented to us by us. We have phenomenal African researchers who have championed this cause on a lot of things around, but how much of this is made known to the average young African, either in the private sector, in the public, and the list goes on. Up to now, I've been to university libraries where almost every book that you pick is authored by somebody outside of the continent. I'm not saying we do not have fine authors in the continent, but how much of those data is available to us? And again, something that would be very important to note, and perhaps a charge to all of us to take up these responsibilities, is the industries of today and the future are going to be built on information, data, and maybe generic and quotes. And this rely heavily on statistics, and it relies heavily on current skills. So yes, the problem is not because we do not relate to these statistics. Of course, sometimes we relate to them because it directly affects us. So that was the reason for its mention, and I thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Usman. Ma'am, we can have that side. Anyone? That side. You can pick.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This question will be sent to Mr. Osman. You said a lot of things which interest me quite much. I am a Cameroonian. My name is Grace. I have a startup in Cameroon, and I studied at the ICT University. And I think I know you somewhere, actually. But yeah, I developed a product within my startup. I tried to present it to many people from Cameroon and within the government, but just to find someone who will listen to me was a problem. So you talked about authors, like many books are published by people outside of the continent, but it's not because they are not authors inside the continent, but it is because nobody will take care of those authors or even their products. Nobody will make those products be listened. Today, I am working with UNDP Turkey, who accepted to take me with the project that I tried to form years ago in Cameroon. And now Turkey and the Arabic region is working on AI for minority languages in Africa, which is a product I try to develop in my own country. And things are gonna change. Maybe our food will be giving other names, but I tried to do that in my country and I didn't have the possibilities. So how will you advise a youth having great ideas great potentials to tackle that situation. Most of us don't want to move out of the country, but because of that, we are forced to. So how will you actually advise us regarding that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can we have, yes, one from there again? Yes.
Bonjour à tous. Je suis Biroro Pascal. La thématique, je suis chercheur, surtout pour des questions sociales, et je m'intéresse plus sur des questions éducatives, les fossés entre l'éducation et aussi le monde réel. Et la thématique m'a beaucoup intéressé. En se promenant un peu partout dans des pays africains, j'ai eu la chance au moins de fréquenter au moins 6 pays au niveau africain. Le problème est réel, vous l'avez soulevé. En tout cas, le défi est là à relever. Mais on ressent plusieurs pays ont mené des réformes. Certains ont pensé que les systèmes, ils ont pensé du système traditionnel qu'ils utilisaient au système LMD. Ils se sont rencontrés qu'ils sont en retard par rapport au monde. Il faut 3 ans pour la licence. Il faut intégrer ça, mais on ressent toujours que le problème est là. D'autres réformes, peut-être sur le long terme, mais maintenant là, qu'est-ce que nous devrons faire? Surtout quand on ressent que plus le temps passe, plus les problèmes s'aggravent et plus les jeunes qu'on pense que l'éducation est à leur accès, on ressent qu'il y a aussi des exclusions à l'entrée même au niveau du système éducatif. Là, je parle des exclusions multiformes, mais quand certaines catégories, par exemple des personnes vivant avec handicap, certains n'ont pas accès à l'éducation comme tant d'autres. Si par exemple une personne, les infrastructures même au niveau de nos pays, on ressent par exemple un bâtiment qui peut avoir un tas de niveaux, une personne vivant avec handicap ne peut pas y accéder. Et il peut commencer sa première année quand les niveaux étaient au rez-de-chaussée, mais si les administrations ou la classe qu'il devrait fréquenter à tel niveau, on ressent plusieurs pays, en tout cas en Afrique, ils sont rares, où il n'existe pas, qui tiennent en tout cas compte à tous les détails. Que faire maintenant? Que faire maintenant? Est-ce qu'on ressent que, bon oui, on pense, on a mené des projets, mais ces projets-là, on ne ressent pas leur impact. Que faire maintenant? C'est ça un peu ma question.
À qui s'adressez-vous votre question?
En tout cas, je vois les décideurs,
Okay,
les décideurs politiques, surtout la
oui,
question.
Madame Kare va répondre à cette question. Merci. Yes, 2 from this side.
afternoon. My name is Maimun Endur. I'm from the Gambia. My question is going to Usman. You said we have many Africans with skills that are running from this continent. Yeah. What do you have for those people, or what policies do you recommend for those people running from this continent to go to another continent with their skills?
Thank you. Will you recommend a government to answer the question?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe Director of Youth. Can you repeat the question?
He said we have many Africans that are moving to another continent because they are already having the skills, but they don't have the resources to operate that skills. So what policies do you have for those people, or what policies will you recommend for those people? Thank you.
Do you get the question? Yeah. Thank you. Get the last one? Yes. So you have Madame Rehmi also is here. She is an expert in terms of skills. They are doing a lot. Maybe if you have any question directed to her too. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you very much. How did you know I was going to
my question to Madam Rashmi. So my name is Fatima Sonko, UNDP. I thank you all, able panelists. I think this is one of the very good discussions I've had that really touched on the third objective of the Youth Project, which is on gender equality. We do know that gender and young people are not a homogeneous group, and as a result, women often face more barriers to economic accessing opportunities. So my question would be, are there any strategies or policies that you have been able to put in place to ensure that the women get more access when it comes to skilling and mentorship? Also, you did eloquently elaborate on the sectorial bodies. I think this is quite a very innovative approach to skilling young people and get them job ready. Can you further elaborate on these sectorial bodies? I think it's something that we want to really emulate in the Gambia. How do you go about forming them? What are their compositions? In what is it in different districts or different regions? We really want to know more about it. We can really have a bilateral, but truly we want to see how we could emulate the sectorial bodies. Thank you, Nova.
Thank you so much. I will request the panelists, as you answer these questions, you also squeeze your final remarks, as we are running against time. Each of you has a question to answer. You can just briefly answer the question and also give your final remark. We can start with that.
Thank you so much. I think the question directed to me is on the policies that could mitigate migration of young people to other continents. I think personally, I feel that as countries, we have beautiful policies. Very beautiful policies that would provide access to skills, that would provide access to finance, or anything that our young people in Africa would need for them to stay in the continent. What is lacking, or where the gap is on implementation. We have challenges to translate what we have put in the policies on the ground. Because in those policies, it's very clear. We need so many schools, we need so many technical colleges, we need so many universities for our young people. We need so much as grants to young people, loans for them to go into business. We need mentors. But how do we now put that into action is a challenge. So for us, I think as government, we need to make sure that we translate in partnership with all the stakeholders we work with, whether they're development partners, UN agencies, non-government organizations. We work together with them to ensure that what is stated in the policy is translated. And with that, it means we are going to create the conducive environment for young people to stay in the continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madame Kouyaté, votre question et votre...
Je pense que la question rejoint un peu celle de ma voisine et je suis d'avis avec elle que, comme disait le monsieur, les politiques existent et elles sont bonnes. Maintenant, quel est le gap? Qu'est-ce qui fait que malgré ces très bonnes politiques, on n'a pas de bons résultats? Moi, je pense que aussi, il est important que le gouvernement puisse vraiment être peut-être un peu plus explicite sur les opportunités d'emploi, sur les secteurs porteurs. Parce que des fois, les jeunes, eux, ils savent ce qu'ils veulent faire, ils aiment certaines choses, mais ce n'est pas forcément des choses qui sont valorisées. D'où aussi le changement de mentalité. Quelqu'un disait tout à l'heure qu'aller vers le secteur professionnel dans la plupart des pays africains, même par rapport aux parents, c'est comme si l'enfant avait échoué. On veut tous avoir des gens qui ont des doctorats en philosophie, en droit, etc. J'ai rien contre, mais est-ce que ces formations-là correspondent aux besoins de nos pays, au développement de nos pays? Je dirais vraiment, je prendrais le risque de dire non. Maintenant, par exemple, quand je prends le cas de la Guinée, aujourd'hui, on est vraiment en train de booster le secteur minier pour qu'il soit le secteur qui va permettre la transformation en profondeur de la Guinée. On est en train de construire un port en eau profonde, comme on dit, dont l'équivalent est pareil ne se trouve qu'en Australie. Et est-ce qu'on a besoin de quoi? On a besoin de techniciens qui sont capables d'aller coller une fissure du bateau sous l'eau. Est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, en Guinée, on a des jeunes qui ont ces compétences-là? Non. Il y a, comme on dit, aussi des outils, des instruments qu'on utilise qui ne savent pas utiliser. Donc, comment faire en sorte que, franchement, on soit même un peu directif pour leur dire, OK, voilà un peu les métiers qui sont porteurs, voilà les secteurs dans lesquels il y aura du travail, et faire en sorte que, aussi que les curricula et les formations correspondent à cela, et qu'effectivement, comme c'est l'exemple qui permet vraiment d'édifier les gens, de faire en sorte que ceux qui auront fait ces formations-là puissent réellement trouver du travail, et un travail qui soit valorisant. Parce que des fois, comme disait aussi une jeune personne, ils ont les compétences, mais en travaillant dans ces domaines-là, ils ne sont pas valorisés. Ça me ramène aussi à faire le lien avec les secteurs, l'industrie créative. Tout ce qui est lié à l'industrie créative, avant on se disait oui, c'est juste un hobby. Mais aujourd'hui, ce n'est pas un hobby, c'est vraiment des secteurs qui sont porteurs dans le domaine de la mode, dans le domaine, comme on dit, de l'audiovisuel. Nous, on est venu avec la délégation guinéenne, mais ce sont nos jeunes stylistes qui nous ont mis vraiment en valeur. Tous les tenues traditionnelles que nous avons sont parties. Même ceux qu'on portait, les gens ont acheté. Donc, ça veut dire que voilà des secteurs qui sont porteurs, qu'il faut valoriser et ne pas les mettre de côté parce que non seulement ça permet au pays d'avoir de la visibilité, ça permet aux jeunes de travailler dans un domaine qu'ils aiment et aussi ça permet vraiment un développement du pays. Donc, moi, je pense qu'il y a un mindset qu'on doit changer. Quelqu'un disait tout à l'heure, peut-être que ce sont nos curricula ou nos approches qui ne sont pas bonnes. Peut-être qu'il y a vraiment une remise en question au plus haut niveau. Et Monsieur le ministre est là, donc je me tourne vers lui pour voir comment est-ce qu'au niveau du gouvernement, on peut vraiment oser orienter les jeunes vers ces secteurs dont nous avons besoin. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Madame Kouyaté. We go to Usman. I hope you get the question. How will you advise the youths who have the potential and the passion to, do better?
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you, my dear sister. So generally, I understand the frustration. These are things that I equally go through many times, where you have brilliant ideas and find a way to get people accepted, and then it becomes a huge challenge, not only with understanding, but generally, agreeing that this is a solution. And I think the biggest fear that go through in many African, those in charge not understanding the urgency of, solutions to current societal problems. So sometimes, an individual doesn't look at the potentials within your product or your good ideas, but will just ask, where are you coming from? Even if this is not made to you directly. However, for me, the frustrations in the continent is not something that should limit us as young people. We are a generation of change for a reason. And that means consistency, that means persistent, that means appearing. Even if they wish for you to disappear, always be there. Knock their doors, someone will open. But generally, there's something that relies on us, and that is the power of the number. When I say the power of the number, I mean, as young people, there is not a single change that we cannot champion and succeed. And once we realize that power within us, the politics will change, the economy will change, and the social acceptance will change. So that's a responsibility that all of us have something to play on, and let's do it. We're doing it for ourselves, and we are doing it for a generation of Africa to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's do it. To end with Madam Rehma, Rashmi Sosori, it's your turn to answer the question and give your final remark. Thank you.
The question that was asked to me was about the sectoral bodies. So if you see, across the world, there are multiple formats of these sectoral bodies, and almost all of them have delivered quite well in the skilling domain. Some of the most popular models are the ones that are led by the private sector. These are mostly autonomous bodies. They have to be backed up by policy. They must have a legal framework. And the model that we are working here in Rwanda and as well as in other countries is a triple helix structure where we have the participation of the public sector, the industry, the private sector, and the academia. So this is what we call the triple helical structure, because that is how it connects. It becomes a bridge between the educational institutions, academic programs, and the private sector, and which is the most critical function of a sector skill council. Now, typically, the structure that we have is to run a body. It is we typically have people, a large amount of people from the private sector leading the council. Obviously, there are government representations and there are representations from the educational institutes. So that there is a steady dialogue that happens between these two, and the government representations help in developing decisions which are backed up by policy, which strengthen the public-private partnerships. Now, for such bodies to be able to operational, they need a secretariat. In terms of key people for labor market research, curriculum development, development of national occupational standards, workplace learning, because these are all the functions of the sector skill councils. So they must have a secretariat. So in the initial years, typically for a SSC to become operational, it requires maybe typically 3 to 5 years. But in the initial years, they need a lot of hand-holding, a lot of support. So they must have seed funding, and after maybe 3 or 4 years, they can become self-sustaining through revenue-generating activities like certification of trainers, certification of trainees, accreditation of training providers. There are a whole gamut of activities that they could undertake, and for which we develop a functional framework for them and an operational framework. I mean, I could go actually on and on and on about it, but I think in the interest of time, I will just stop here. But I'm happy to have a separate conversation on this with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But I have an important question to ask to each and everyone here, like to every young person. Are we continuing to be standing at the periphery, talking and advocating all the time? If we don't join the decision-making table, how can policies and systems can be changed? The reason why I joined the government, because I think that's the easiest way to make a change. Young people, I am less than 30, Usman also is less than 30, but I'm working for the government making changes. We cannot be just sitting around the corner, talking all the time, advocating this and this and that. Nothing will change. But if we don't take public leadership, sitting the same table with policy makers, decision makers, running for offices, rising up to leadership position, nothing will change. I always think about this. Usman talks about the numbers. We have the power. But out of those numbers, how many people are trained with the required skills? How many of those people are not in education, not in employment, without skills? What about those in the rural areas? So is it not time for every young person or every person who is privileged? We need to see many Basiru, we need to see many Usman Toure. It's not about like, let us make an ecosystem of young, powerful minded people. If you have knowledge, share it. Even if it is one person, train your fellow, give opportunities, share opportunities to them. Only that we can change this continent, but we cannot be just talking all the time, sitting outside without joining the decision-making table. We will not go anywhere, because having systems and policies without the proper structures, it is useless. So thank you for my panelists, and thank you for coming. I will give back to the MC. Thank you so much. My name is Basiru.
Thank you very much. And for the panelists. Thank you. Who's taking the photo? Well done, Basiru, for such a powerful panel. Usually, we don't have a good gender representation in panels. We'll usually have 3 men, 1 woman, or 4 men, 1 woman. So you did a wonderful job, Basiru. A round of applause for Basiru. Thank you very much to all our wonderful panelists. There's a lot of discussions around education, skills, jobs mismatch around the continent. And it's a good thing we're talking about it, which means we recognize the problem. And then I know the discussions will not end in this room. We will carry it to our little corners and back home. But then also we talked about AI. It's a bit scary, but then it's something that we need to embrace. Yesterday when I was coming in, we had this robot at the entrance, right? It's scary. If we were living in denial, I think seeing it working very well in Rwanda is a sign that we should embrace it and see how we need to work with it or around it. Because someone been doing that job, what the robot was doing yesterday, I just stood there and then the robot to go or move back a little bit. That is someone else's job gone to a robot. So let's embrace it and see how well we work around it or with it. If not, we are going to be consumed by AI in the next few years. So let's not live in denial. Thank you very much. So as we come to the tail end of this activity, I would like to call on our valuable partner, UNDP, who have been supportive of Youth Connect Gambia over the years, not just Youth Connect, but the Ministry of Youth and Sport through the National Youth Council and other initiatives under the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Thank you, UNDP, for all the support over the years. We recognize your support and contributions to the development of young people in the Gambia. I would now call on Ms. Binta Barry to come and deliver the closing remarks. Okay, Binta is coming instead. Binta is not feeling too well.
Thank you very much. I think this has been a very engaging. You want me to go up there? You know, some people like me that are vertically challenged, we don't like standing on stages. All right. All right, thank you very much. I just want to say that this has been quite an enlightening discussion so far for each and every one of us. I'm pretty sure that you have all taken away 1 or 2 things today from this side event from the Gambian team. For me, it has been, like we mentioned, it has been really gender balanced. In promoting the objectives of the Youth Connect, this panel really did a good job in discussing the realities of young people, not just in the Gambia, but across the continent, looking at some of their realities and proffering solutions across different countries. And the makeup of the panel, we can see that we had representation from Malawi, we had representation from Rwanda. It's cross-cutting, and I think it was very, very enriching. We want to thank them. We want to thank all of the panelists, the distinguished panelists that took time, made time off their busy schedule. Madam Rashmi from MasterCard Foundation. We had Madam Aminata Kuyate, the National Director of Youth Employment. We had Mrs. Judith Musa, Director of Youth and Sports Malawi, and of course our own son and brother, Usman Toure. On behalf of UNDP and my colleagues, I want to say a very big thank you. Again, we are not just supporting and financing the Youth Connect, but of course we are partnering to see that young people really get to the potential, fulfill their potentials. We mentioned great things about, especially, like I mentioned in my question and my deliberation, about closing the gap when it comes to gender disparities. This is really, really a key objective of the Youth Connect, and in whatever we do, I really want you to continue to advance that agenda. I want to finally close by thanking our own Honorable Minister, who has really been with us, who has handheld the team, the Gambian team, and has really been with us all through. Thank you very much, sir. Your contribution has really, really been invaluable. Again, this all points to the value of collaboration and partnerships. Without partnerships, we really, really can't achieve much, from UNDP to the government, of course, to the young people, to the youth chapter itself. It is collaborative and collaboration. Thank you again. I won't keep you much longer. I'm sure it's a long evening. I want to thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, UNDP Gambia. Thank you to all our guests. Thank you to the wonderful panel. One last request before we leave. We would like to have a group picture with people from the Smiling Coast. Please come to the stage.
Okay, our colleagues from Burkina Faso as well, they will be having their side event. So we encourage everyone to attend tomorrow from 9:30 to 11. Yes, here, right? Jean? Say si, no? Wait. So here, tomorrow, 9:30. Yes, we can. Thank you. Everyone. Mm-hmm. Come. Monsieur? Oh, notre frère sénégalais. Viens ici. Oui, merci. Yes. Okay, who else? Okay. Hey, Mireille, come. No, I can stand here, don't worry. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow at the same venue. Thank you.